Cecile Green. I am the founder of Dancing Catamount. Thanks so much for your interest in our community. We purchased the land in 2013, and for the first 5 years, we focused on building out the garden space and attempting to grow as much of our own produce as possible. In 2018, we began the process of bringing on new members into the cooperative. And we continue that process to this day. We are hoping to grow our circle of co-founders to expand upon the current vision of Dancing Catamount, which is to cultivate ourselves so that we can become better communitarians and to grow our own food and medicine, as well as to create a model of what it is like to live in small community together so as to inspire others across the globe to do the same. Currently, we have 8.5 members. 1 member is in transition from another state to be here full time. And we are seeking to add new co-founders to help build out the vision of Dancing Catamount as a healing sanctuary, as a place where people can come and rest from the worries of the world, recuperate from trauma, and create a nurturing bond with the land and with other humans. Our membership process involves folks leasing one of our spaces. We have a large 2-bedroom apartment in the main house, a small basement apartment, a tiny cabin, about just under 300 square feet, and a tiny house site. And so potential new members come and they lease one of those spaces month to month and participate in all of the decision-making and the work of growing our food and medicine. And at the end of that trial year, they can apply to become a full member with a buy-in fee and participate at the board level from then on. So let's meet some of the residents of Dancing Catamount. This is Woden. He is a Maine Coon, and he and his brother keep this place in good shape. Up here, we'll meet a few other residents, in addition to some gorgeous, gorgeous orange daylilies and other garden yummies. That is Jelly Bean, straight ahead of us. She is Liz's dog. Jelly Bean is a happy farm dog, indeed. And here we have a crew of us harvesting blueberries. Our blueberries just came in, and they're having a lively conversation in the blueberries. Hey guys, hello.
Hi there, I'm Yaron. This is a nice lazy July afternoon harvest. So beautiful, the crop of this ancient bushes. They're so happy, and I like doing that.
Hi, I'm Liz. Let's check out Liz's berries. Look at that basket. Oh my God. And on this side, we have Mr. Chris.
Hello, I'm Chris. Hi. True wealth. Lots of blueberries.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
And look, blueberries. Yay. And here are our main gardens with some cabbage and corn and dried beans, lots of different kinds of dried beans, over 16 different varieties of dried beans. And into our hoop house, which houses all our summer veg during the growing season, cucumbers and tomatoes. There's peppers down there at the end. And even got some basil and eggplant that are all tucked away in the extra heat, which is really helpful up here at 1,400 feet in the mountains. And some giant mullein. We like to have a lot of polyculture in our gardens. Our paths are a combination of legumes, red clover, yellow clover, white clover, vetch, and some other plants that help create mulch, keep the weeds down and hold the sides of the beds in. Our peas, and giant kale Growing happily up here, and we have about 750 cloves of garlic that have turned into beautiful heads. We'll be harvesting those soon. And here's a walk past our carrots and a sense of how these no-till beds work. So stuffed full of organic matter, and they were really only dug once. We pull up organic matter from the path some years and put it on top of the beds to fertilize them. All of our brassicas going gangbusters, and one of our herb gardens, a whole patch of parsley there, and some gorgeous calendula. Right here we have our giant red cabbage and some gorgeous amaranth, and our purple cauliflower. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. Yeah, and this is our North Hill, where we have chard and cilantro and all of our alliums, which we're very grateful. We've stayed ahead of the leek moth this year. Hopefully we'll have a good onion crop this year. And coming on over, a little bit of lettuce, some more dill and cilantro getting started. Our parsnips have just gone in for the winter. And on this side of the garden, we have our little tiny house site, currently filled with a beautiful Airstream, as you can see, that Debbie and Chris live in. And here is our potato patch. We have 7 different kinds. So the gardens surround the house and lead all the way down nearly to the road. That's our neighbors across the street. Beautiful barn. They have some rescue horses and dogs. And come around the corner here, we'll see our chickens. They have a hay bale coop, keeps them somewhat warm in the winter, and then what we call a romper room, which is that plastic covered chicken wire enclosed extra space that they can have some fun in the winter, because winters are long up here. But here's our girls. Yeah. And one of the babies, we got 12 new babies this year. Oh, and they are all showing up. Beautiful. Yeah, they're doing great. Last year, we installed the electric fence because we had a bear that was not nice to our chickens. Electric fences worked so far. But here's another perspective on the main house and the gardens. So, a little bit of a perspective on the driveway and the other gardens back up to the hoop house. Our solar dryer, we use this to dry herbs, and works pretty well when there's sun. We have our wash station. We can do lots of veggie processing outside, keep the mess out there. And up here is our fire pit and wood supply. We have a weekly potluck fire circle on Saturday nights, and this is where we do it and enjoy the view of the mountains, which today are obscured behind the clouds. But it's certainly a lovely spot to hang out and spend time together.
Thanks for everyone. Hopefully the audio was audible enough for you. And I also wanted to just share that at the moment, we are also, we have 2 specific spaces that are available if you're interested. you should definitely check out our website, which I'll put the link in the chat box for you all. And also we'll put the link to the 2 listings that we currently have open, which are the tiny house site and the little cabin. And with that, I'll stop and see if there's any questions you've got.
Okay, thank you so much, Cecile. Just gorgeous to see the garden, like the size of your Swiss chard. I was like, oh, it looks so healthy and happy. Beautiful work. Good, good. Well, folks, if you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand to ask your questions or put them in the chat box or in the Q&A box, ideally, and we'll tackle them. I did have a question for you, Cecile. If you could talk a little bit about the age of the community and what your kind of ownership, membership model looks like.
Yeah, we began informally in 2013. So that's what, 8 years or so ago. But it wasn't until 2018 that we formalized as a cooperative. So we are incorporated under Vermont statutes of cooperative housing as a limited equity co-op. And so there's a buy-in fee, and the full members are the board. Full members have the option of building their own homes if that's something that they'd like to do.
Okay, nice. And we do have a question here from Susan. What are the relationships of your community members with the local town, like elected officials, fire department, police, etc.?
Yeah, informal and friendly. I have been invited to join the select board, but at the moment my hands are full with running the community, so that hasn't happened yet, but I hope it will. It's a small, wonderful little town. Worcester is a real gem, and we're lucky there's only about 1,000 residents, so it's really quite easy to know your neighbors and participate at the local level.
Okay, great. And how about your housing capacity? You mentioned you have two spaces right now. Do you have room for, someone has asked, how many houses are possible? Can we build more houses there?
Yes, the short answer is yes, and it's going to somewhat depend upon the folks who show up, but we have room for at least 3 more tiny houses at this point. And we have hopes and dreams of perhaps getting some land from a neighbor and expanding to be a larger community at that point.
Okay. Okay, lots of questions coming in. Age range of your members?
27 to 71.
Okay, yeah, that's a good age range. Great.
Not too shabby.
Yeah. And can you speak a little bit about the experience of your community through COVID? Like how was that for your community? What was the reaction to COVID issues?
Yeah, really fascinating challenge for a small community. I think in general, we all felt incredibly blessed to have remote work and to be able to be a community together. And so we formed a kind of a COVID pod where we had agreements that, we would behave in certain ways in the world. And that meant we didn't have to mask when we were together. So we were able to have unmasked and human time together, which was wonderful. It was a huge support. Things changed over the course of the pandemic, so that was kind of like the beginning, and then midway we actually split into 2 different pods, and so we were able to navigate the changes in people's needs and situations through our rapid decision-making process, and that made it possible to really stay close and hang in there together through it, even if our agreements shifted.
Right. Wonderful. Good. I'm glad you were able to navigate that as a group and be adaptable, flexible. Alrighty, let me see what other questions I want to take. Can you speak a little bit more about, you had mentioned a limited equity housing co-op is your structure, and someone asked, what does that mean? Can you share what that means?
Well, it's basically a co-op structure that makes provisions in the bylaws that a certain percentage of the membership will have be low income. So that we're providing affordable housing essentially, and a place for people who perhaps don't have lots of resources to participate in community.
Great, great, beautiful. And would you say that most of your members work there with the farm and the garden, or do they have outside jobs, working virtually? How does that work?
Yeah, a good range actually. So most of us have outside jobs, and the work on the co-op is anywhere from 1 to 2 hours a day. So it's basically fits in around other work. Some of our members who are retired choose to work more, and that's great. It's wonderful to help those of us out who maybe have more limited schedules.
Nice. Okay, great. Decision-making process. How do you all make decisions?
Yeah. Well, we use a set of practices called Collab that I researched and synthesized and published about 10 years ago and teach as my day job. That's what I do virtually, is teach that. And so we also use it here at the community. And I'll put a link in the chat box if you want to check out. There's a bunch of free resources there you can check out. And we recently did a webinar with the foundation, and that's available also through your website, right?
Yeah. Yep. Great. Yeah, I'm so curious that your community is putting into practice a methodology that you developed and now consult on called Collab. It's just a really great. Yeah, there's the link, folks, roundskysolutions.com. Okay, and if people want to visit, are you accepting visitors right now?
Actually, we have an open house on August 14th, 9 to 12. I'll put my email in the chat box too. That's the best way to find out more about it. And yes, we are actively looking for folks for those 2 spaces that I mentioned. And so if you're curious, definitely just email me and we can go through a conversation together to see.
Okay. Whoops. Okay. And we did get one more question. That's a good one. I have to take it. Someone from Santa Cruz in California has asked about what do you do in the winter? Yeah, we have winter here. We're able to grow things all year round, no snow. What do you all do in the winter?
We hibernate. We take lessons from our neighbors, the black bears. Not quite, but we do slow down a lot. And frankly, it's wonderful to do that. Pardon me. We also have a lot of snow to shovel. So we shovel snow. That keeps us busy. And we do basic things like cleaning tools and sharpening them and planning. We spend time on visioning and business model work. It's a wonderful time. And we shell beans. Since we grow so many of our own dried beans, we have meetings and we shell beans. It's wonderful.
Great. Yeah, I enjoy the winter time. I'm a skier, so getting out on the snow and skiing and snowshoeing is a lot of fun. Good. Okay, thank you so much, Cecile, and thank you for putting those resources into the chat. Really encourage everyone to check out the website. And yeah, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, so next we are going to go to Perry, who is going to talk about a community that is not yet established, but is very much so in the works, being developed. And this is a community that's going to be located in Greece. And I'm so excited. This is the first time we've featured an international community, a community outside of the US. So delighted to have you with us and excited to learn more.
Thank you, Cynthia. You know, IC is a special organization, so I'm thrilled to be here. And having an international group like ours, we're aware that there's really no other organization like IC in the world. So we're thankful to have you and to have these tours, because they're useful. We're having a lot of really wonderful people come our way. our project is extremely popular. It's not something that we're having to work very hard to get group members. We're young, and yet we're moving very quickly because of all of the interest coming our way. So oh, it looks like I didn't put the tab up. So we are, I'm an immigration attorney, and I'm also a Greek American. And that is what has led to this project for me. And I'm having a little trouble doing a share screen. We practiced this, and now there we go. So I'm a Greek American, and I've also lived in co-housing. And during the pandemic, I chose to marry the two and start this project in Greece. And as I said, it's been more popular than I possibly could have imagined, and we've gone incredibly quickly. So while we are a forming group, we are actually, you know, at an unusually fast stage in our development. Let's see. We are, as co-housing communities go, somewhere around stage 9. We had a recent property search and came away just shocked at how many fantastic properties are out there due to the pandemic and due to the new surge in people who want to relocate, and due to the Greek economy, which has led to a lot of properties being for sale. So we had a recent property search, and we came away with something really quite astounding that we're in the process of doing negotiations for. I'll talk about it a little more later, but it does have a vineyard, a mature vineyard. It has a farm, a fully operational farm. It has hundreds of acres of olive trees, and it's in the midst of building a olive mill for olive oil production. It has a series of about 15 miles of incredible trails. It borders a national park. And yet it's also just 30 minutes from an incredibly adorable Greek village on the seacoast and a beach, and only 20 minutes from a major city. So we'll see if this property, we can negotiate for it, but we're very hopeful. But just to kind of back up a bit, co-housing is, as some of you know, the village reimagined. So the term village is in our title for a good reason. You know, unlike communes and other communities, this really is rooted in a design movement, not just a physical architectural design movement, but also a social design movement. So when something is called co-housing, even in other parts of the world, there's something quite distinctive about our design socially and architecturally. We have generally a large and generous common house, and the homes surround the common house. This is in America, but the design concept is similar all over the world. There are no cars in co-housing. The cars are on the periphery, so that all the land that is held in common is something that children can run free in. And we are a multi-generational community. So having children be able to run and have a freer, more joyful life is part of what we plan to do. But the beauty of settling into Greece as opposed to other countries is that it has an incredible culture of village that none of the US co-housing communities have the opportunity to be inspired by. And so, you know, maybe we can have sister communities and have them come out and visit and mutually inspire each other. But we're planning to be inspired by the Greek village architecture, which in addition to American architecture, has some special features that you don't see in other co-housing communities around the world. We also, like co-housing communities, engage in participatory design. Within a few months, we should have completed our property development negotiation with this wellness resort that I was telling you about earlier. And we'll begin our participatory design workshop series. And that is where over Zoom or in Greece, people will be creating the community together. And we've got some really wonderful people in our group. We've got urban planners, we've got an architect. I saw somebody from Canada. We've got a former ambassador to Canada from Greece. I saw somebody from the Bay Area. We've got a young couple from the Bay Area, remote workers. So they'll all come together and we'll design our community together and we'll manage it together. As I mentioned, it's not a commune. We do share a lot of values with eco-villages, and we might even choose to call ourselves an eco-village as well. But unlike eco-villages, we're not ideology driven, we're design driven for human connection. It's all about designing a community so that you can have a community of mutually supportive neighbors who do fun things together and care about each other and support each other. It was originally developed in Denmark. This is the very first co-housing community by a man named Jan Goodman Hoyer. And you know, we've expanded beyond that over the decades with decades of Danish studies and now decades of US communities. US communities that were initially developed by two architect developers, Katie McCammett and Charles Durrett, who wrote the book on co-housing literally. We'll be using that kind of traditional co-housing methodology that is outlined in Katie and Chuck's book, including non-hierarchical decision-making. We'll be using sociocracy, including the design, which I've gone over briefly, and including the focus on community. The property that we're looking at right now and negotiating on is within just 30 minutes of this town right here, Yifio. And in my opinion, it's perfect. It has the perfect Mediterranean culture. I saw some people from Sonoma County, and it has some similarities, the land that we have with that region. It's good wine growing region where we've chosen, right in between the very tall mountains and the very low, villages along the sea is where we've located ourselves, where there are less mosquitoes, where climate change isn't as much of an issue, relatively speaking, and where we can get to both of those places easily. We're in a place called Peloponnesos, which is a peninsula that enables people to have kind of a Greek village lifestyle that they kind of recognize from the Greek islands, but to be able to also hop in your car and drive into Europe. So if you buy a house in our community, you'll get EU residency, and you can explore Europe as well as Greece with us, because we are people who are really into exploring Greece, the food, the culture. We will have Greeks living with us. It will be very much an international community. We'll have people from all over the world, including Greeks. This is an example of the architecture that we might be using. This is a little church on the land where we're negotiating for right now. So it gives you a feel for what we might be looking at in terms of architecture and aesthetic. And you can't read this, but this gives you a feel for the breadth of the property that we'll be potentially locating ourselves on. It has a little bit of everything. It has the vineyard I mentioned, the farm with horses and farm animals and crops. It has a large orchard with every kind of fruit you could imagine. They're going to be building a small, tiny factory for drying fruit, as well as a honey production, small area. There will be a agricultural tourism, tiny boutique hotel as well on the land, and lots of other things. So you can find us on our website. We're at Greek Village Co-Housing. I'll have Cynthia put the link in. I think we have a accidental differently link, but this she can put in the link for our community, so you can click on it and sign up for one of our Friday information sessions, or just reach out to me and I can talk to you individually. We have a very exciting event coming up that I can invite all of you to. It's free. It's we're generating a lot of interest from even famous people because we're the first co-housing community in Greece. And really well-known Greek-American chef, Diane Kochilas, who has a PBS series, and she's been on Today's Show and Throwdown with Bobby Flay and all of that. She's going to be doing a cooking demonstration, and we're going to be inviting co-housing communities from all around the world and eco-villages and co-living places. So if you want to be exposed to more people from all over the world that are living in community, you should come to our cooking demonstration event. We have the free tickets on our website, and you can read more about us there as well. And I think that gives you the basics. Maybe there might be some questions. I can't.
Thank you so much, Perry. That was a wonderful presentation. And I'm so happy to hear that things are going really well with attracting interest for your project. Yeah, I know that's sometimes something that new communities struggle with. So it sounds like you all have hit the nose exactly on what people are interested in. Great. And also to learn about how you personally have combined your various passions for Greece and the US and co-housing and brought it all together. Yeah, just excellent work. I actually myself, I was, maybe I was 19 or 20 and had the experience to woof on a vineyard on an island in Greece. And I've always wanted to go back. Amazing place, beautiful.
Neil and all of the IC crowd, we are going to have events. We are multi-generation and we're party animals at Greek Village Co-Housing. We're going to be having there's even an amphitheater in our area, but we're going to have a little dance floor area outside, and we're going to be doing Greek dancing on Fridays, where Greeks are into whole family celebrations. So we look forward to that.
Good, good. I'm looking forward to it myself. Wonderful. All right, so we have a question here about how can people sign up for the Friday night informational session? Is that on your website?
It is, and while we were talking, I got an email. I just put up the Diane Kochilas event this morning, right before this event, and it looks like in putting that up, I've done something wrong to the coffee. So what I would suggest is waiting an hour and signing up for the coffee on our website, or simply emailing. You can email us at greekvillagecohousing@gmail.com, or go to www.greekvillagecohousing.com, and you'll find the information coffee under events, as well as the Diane Kochilas event. Yeah, I see a question about houses. I forgot to mention that. It is in fact a whole village. So we use the Danish studies and the American studies and anecdotal information to try to get as close to best practices as possible, so that we'll be successful, so that we'll be long-lived, so that the community will be happy and healthy. So we're choosing about 33 households. That's about the right number to make decisions well together, but also to find deeper friendships. When it gets too small in co-housing, you have trouble with keeping up the meal program. And we're going to be cooking and eating together in our common house several times a week. We have our own private homes and our own private kitchens and our own private lives, but we also have this big common house, and we're going to be doing fun things together in it as well as outside.
Great. And we do have a question about the location. If you could just say again where it's located and how far from Athens.
Is someone from Europe asking? Are you from Europe?
Some Francis, Greek village. Can you spell the name of the village you are near? How far are you from Athens? You are on the...
So this is somebody who knows Greece. Yeah. So who is it? What's her name?
Francis Eubanks in the Q&A box.
Hi, Francis. Yes, we are in Peloponnesos. So that is the peninsula that you can drive to from Athens. We have not bought the land yet. We're in the midst of negotiations, but I'm an attorney, so I'm pretty good at negotiations. We'll see. But this land that we've chosen currently is 2 hours from Athens. It's 30 minutes from Ythio. It's 20 minutes from Sparta. Sparta is a very large city that has all of the things that we need, a very modern, good hospital with doctors that have been trained in the United States, and the kind of grocery stores and, you know, natural food stores and things like that that we all, we expats are used to shopping at. So that gives you a feel for our location.
Great. And probably a question many people are wondering, what are the legalities? What's the process for foreign citizens living in Greece?
So that answers a couple of questions, because as much as we'd love to be an affordable co-housing community, we are not a wealthy community by any means. And we are also not a super inexpensive community. We're in the middle. And one of the ways that we've found to be affordable is that there are several of our members who are going to buy several units and rent them out to refugees and to Greeks. So for those of us who aren't refugees or Greeks, you will be looking at something called the golden visa. A golden visa is a property purchase in Europe. Greece is the lowest golden visa in all of Europe, which means that for a property purchase of 250,000 euro, which is about $300,000, you can buy a property in Greece and you can get EU residency, not just for yourself, but for your spouse and your parents and your children under 21. So if you've got kids that are on their way to university, you can suddenly have access to those inexpensive and fantastic European universities for your kids. That's a big draw for a couple members. So we're talking somewhere around $300,000, 250,000 euro, if you're not European and you're not Greek.
Okay, gotcha. Nice. So that golden visa program. And another question that I'm also wondering, how did you find so many people so fast? Did you have a core group and then advertise it somehow? How did it all happen for you so quickly?
It's the right thing at the right time. We have lots of different populations coming toward us. We have retirees, we have remote workers with families and remote worker couples. And then we have diaspora Greeks. We have then, you know, subpopulations of this and that as well. People who just love Greece, people who want to leave the United States or Canada for one reason or another, people who are drawn to the wonderful climate in Greece. Somebody asked if it's cold. Well, you can ski in Greece, but we're not anywhere near that. It's a nice climate. It's really nice. It's perfect in my view. So I think that because of the economy in Greece, we're able to find a property like I'm describing, whereas just a few years ago that would be beyond any of us economically. But because of the economic situation in Greece, plus the pandemic, the properties are just amazing. And because some people are leaving the Bay Area because they can now work from anywhere, We're getting a lot of people from areas like that and areas all over Europe where people post-pandemic are now working fully remotely. And we're getting a lot of retirees. We're getting a lot of fire people. I'm a fire person, financially independent, retiring early. People who no longer want the rat race and love the idea of the Greek lifestyle, which is about health, which is about relaxing. And we have a lot of people working, but they're working less and they're living on less and just living a simpler life. So.
Very sweet. And how about the ownership structure for the community?
It will be a typical, something that North Americans are used to in a typical co-housing community. You buy a private home as a private individual and you own that home. That enables you to sell it easily and quickly. We have all sorts of things that we do to make sure that the next people who buy it are people who love co-housing. We require them to go to meetings. We require them to eat with us a couple of times. We have tours with agents so that people are educated about co-housing. But we do private ownership because it's easy. It's easy to buy and it's easy to sell. And that way you're protected and you're, for the most part, co-housing communities in the United States have wait lists. So it's hard to get into them and it's very easy to sell from the next person on the wait list who's been waiting to get into the community. So private ownership.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, great. Well, I want to give time to Noah to share next about his project. So thank you so much, Perry. And I think there might be some more questions in the Q&A box. Also, if you want to peruse in there and answer some additional questions. But yes, thank you so much and best of luck with the endeavor.
Thank you.
Okay. And Noah, all right, I hope that you have managed to sort out the screen sharing. I'm so in love with the diversity of communities with Dancing Catamount, which is just this relatively small, very food and growing food focused community in Vermont. And we have a new community forming in Greece for people really from all around the world. And now going to Madison Community Cooperative in Wisconsin, where you all have a real focus on being a nonprofit organization supporting making accessible housing opportunities possible. So I'd love for you to share about that, Noah.
Yeah, so I'll just briefly introduce myself. My name is Noah. I am the education officer at Madison Community Cooperative. Essentially, my role is similar to a secretary on your typical board of directors. So let me see if I can get my screen shared here. It says the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Let me do that. Okay, try now. We can see your screen. That's good.
Oh, cool. Let me get the presentation pulled up then. Okay. So let's get back to the beginning here. Okay, so yeah, we are Madison Community Cooperative. We were established back in 1968. So we are a pretty old cooperative, especially compared to the first two presenters today. And this Madison Community Cooperative kind of came out of a time when several students in Madison. Madison, Wisconsin is a big college town. The University of Wisconsin-Madison is located here. And this collection of cooperative housing kind of came during this time where properties were selling for relatively cheap. And this group was kind of interested in forming an organization that would provide a lot of support for a lot of the cooperative housing buildings that existed in Madison at the time. So our mission, like most nonprofits, we do have a mission statement. MCC strives to improve the Madison community by providing low-cost, not-for-profit cooperative housing to low to moderate income people and to be inclusive of underrepresented and marginalized groups. So we do encourage people who are lower income to apply to our houses. And we are able to verify kind of the income brackets that we serve only through a self-certification process. We do not necessarily pry into the income level of our residents, but they are expected to report kind of what income bracket they live in. And part of that is to live up to our mission statement. And part of that is also to ensure that we maintain our nonprofit status, which we maintain by providing low-income housing. So who are we? We are essentially a federation of 11 cooperative houses with upwards of 200 members. I'd say realistically, we're probably closer to 150 right now. And then, like I said before, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And as we get in here, I'll do some discussion as I show you some pictures of our houses. So we have, like I said, have 11 houses that make up Madison Community Cooperative. That is, the houses who are part of our organization have changed over time. Some of them go on to leave MCC and become independent housing cooperatives. Several of them have changed names over time. On our screen here, we have Ambrosia, which I live in, and then we have Audrey Lord. And kind of how MCC works is that each of our houses are relatively independent. So when you want a membership into a house, you approach generally the individual house. So Ambrosia, for example, where I live, has a membership coordinator that, you know, prospective tenants would reach out to and set up a meeting. And then it's a similar process for most of the houses. People who want to move into the building meet with the members of that house for usually like 3 meetings. You have to fill out a questionnaire. You meet for a couple of dinners, which we've done remotely through Zoom over this last year due to COVID-19. And then finally, you have your official membership meeting where the membership of that household decides if they want to accept you or not. And the part that we really stress to members living in our various houses is that not only are they tenants, but we are all also landlords. We are collective landlords. So we do have to follow fair housing policies when we are taking into consideration prospective members. And again, on our screen here, we have another set of houses. This is Avalon, Hypatia, and International Housing Cooperative, which houses a lot of international students and residents. And again, here we have Lothlorien and Ophek Shalom. Each of our houses has its own unique culture. I would not be able to share everything about all of our houses in this presentation, but most of them do have a system of work, a formal system. Not all of them, but most of them do. The one that I live in, for example, each member is expected to take on approximately 5 hours of house chores to kind of keep up the house, and everyone has an assigned role. So we have people assigned to cooking dinner each evening. We have people who are assigned to taking out the garbage each week, washing the dishes, cleaning the kitchen. Everybody has a rotating bathroom cleaning schedule. Again, that's not exactly the same at all of our houses, but each house does have a process for making sure that house tasks are accomplished. Again, another two of our houses, Sophia and Syntropy. And then we have these are two houses out of the 11 houses that I'm currently talking about that are currently undergoing like major renovation. There are currently no one living in these properties. We have the Marsha P. Johnson house, and then we have Friends. So these are properties that we're hoping in the year to come that we will be able to formally open to the public and start membershiping. And now, because these houses do not currently have anyone living there, the officers and staff at MCC in this case would be responsible for interviewing potential residents and accepting them or denying them into these houses. While that would normally be a task taken on by the members living in that house. And finally, I'll explain a little bit about our structure. So we do have a board of directors, and each year we have an election among all the houses to vote for our 5 officers. We have what is essentially a president, a vice president, a treasurer, a secretary, and then we have a maintenance officer who is in charge of overseeing the maintenance of all of our properties. And then our board also includes representatives from each house who are voted for by their house. Larger houses, for example, some of our houses have 30 residents in them. We'll have 2 house representatives, or one of our houses that has 10 rooms and 10 residents will have 1. We have dedicated staff. We have a full-time membership coordinator and a full-time maintenance coordinator. They kind of deal with the daily maintenance of the organization, reaching out to members, overseeing major renovation projects on our various houses. And then we have several committees that are made up of the more general membership. We have a finance committee, maintenance committee, membership. We have a personnel committee that is in charge of putting out applications and interviewing staff and bringing prospective hires to the board of directors for approval. And then finally, our general membership also is part of our structure. So we have 4 meetings each year for the general membership, who have the final say on some very major decisions like finalizing our budget and approving our budget. So that's a little bit about our structure. As far as individual houses go, these houses are located across downtown Madison. They're not necessarily connected to one another. And when you rent out a space at one of our houses, what you are essentially getting is your own private bedroom, but the rest of the space is private. So everyone in our houses shares a kitchen, they share bathrooms. The only thing that you have like total control over is your bedroom. And our rents range from around $400 a month to upwards of $700 a month. For the downtown Madison area, that is relatively affordable, I would say. A lot of the apartments down here are going for $1,000 a month for a single bedroom. So we really do try and live up to our commitment of providing low-income housing. And we also have some pretty generous payment plans for residents who are not able to pay their rent outright. So that's a little bit about our houses and our structure. that's kind of all I have. I'm ready to take any questions that we might have.
Thank you so much, Noah. It's really great to learn about the cooperative. I hadn't realized how large it is actually, how many buildings you have and 150 plus people living there. It's great. And I was even wondering, do you know if Madison or MCC is one of the largest or the largest housing cooperative in the US?
I'm not sure what our relation is to the rest of the country in terms of size. Madison has a pretty thriving cooperative scene, though, not just among housing cooperatives. I mean, there certainly are plenty of independent housing cooperatives in Madison, as well as other kinds of cooperatives, worker cooperatives, grocer cooperatives. But yeah, I'd be interested in finding out how we compare nationwide. We have had people from across the country reach out to us for advice on starting up new co-ops and stuff like that. So I think our name is out there in terms of housing cooperatives.
Great. And we have a bunch of questions for you. Are the people who live there primarily students, or what kind of people tend to live in the houses?
So we've got a pretty big range of people who live in our houses. We have families with children, young children. We do have a lot of students. Like I said, Madison is kind of known for being a college town, though we certainly have plenty of residents. There are a lot of college students. There are grad students here who are making use of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. But we have plenty of people who are just regular residents, full-time workers, part-time workers, people living here who are on disability. We have a wide range of individuals living here. Some of them are new. Some of them only want to live here for a semester. Some of them live here for a couple of years. And then we have other residents who have been with MCC for 15 plus years.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so it sounds like you have people who stay a long time. That was one of my questions was, how long are people choosing to stay in that setup? But yeah, that's a while. And how about shared meals?
So that one is kind of a house-to-house basis. The one I live in, Ambrosia, for example, has communal meals every day. So we have dinner together every night. You're not obligated to be there, but you are encouraged to be there. And we have assigned cooks each evening. We have a team of 2 people each night who prepares dinner for the house. Other houses do not have a consistent shared meal schedule. So again, they all kind of have a unique culture to them while having some similar structures in place. So we do grant like individual houses a pretty big degree of autonomy in order to shape their own culture. MCC kind of just helps with some of the larger administrative stuff.
Okay, gotcha. That's really cool how you're fostering that uniqueness in each house. And I heard you say that houses also decide, like once a house is established, they decide their own membership and who they kind of let in. Is that how it works?
Right. So for houses that are functioning properly, that have, enough members to kind of keep the house running, as it should be, the members of that house are responsible for interviewing potential members. We have a membership coordinator at each house who is responsible for a lot of the communication back and forth with potential members. And then they will meet with each other. They'll meet with a new member, ask them questions, kind of find out what they're looking for, if they would be a good fit for the house. And then finally, they vote to accept or deny that member. And then MCC provides the actual lease for all of our properties that people live on, but it is up to the members of the house to kind of decide who moves in to their house. Unless they are a house that is not functioning properly, then MCC's staff and officers will step in and take over the process of interviewing members and accepting them. But generally, we don't want any house to be at that state. So if they're functioning properly, the house and the members who live there will interview and accept members who want to live in that individual house.
And we have a question in the chat box from Alan. How are new houses acquired or started?
Yeah, so that is a kind of a longer process. Those kind of decisions are made by the general membership at general membership meetings. Again, those happen 4 times a year on a quarterly basis. And essentially, someone can bring a proposal to the general membership that this property exists, that they think MCC should purchase. And that is kind of up to the discretion of the membership to decide whether or not we have the funds to do that, how we want to go about that process. Like I said, we currently have 2 projects that are underway. That is the process that we are supposed to go through. Ultimately, like, major financial decisions are made by the general membership on whether MCC purchases new properties or not.
Okay, interesting. Huh. Well, no one has asked this question, but I'm curious. As an older community, I imagine you have seen different phases of development and population size and different changes. What was the pandemic like for your community? And in general, like, what kind of trend are you noticing right now? Are more people moving in, more people moving out? How has that been?
Yeah, so I would say MCC has not necessarily had a COVID policy for all the houses to follow. Again, each house kind of determines how they want to approach that situation. Most of them did implement some policies regarding masking in common areas. We can't require anyone to get immunized or vaccinated, but we did, like, my house, for example, definitely encouraged the members of our house to get vaccinated and try, and we have a chart on everyone who received a vaccine and when, and we had a much more strict guest policy. Like, we didn't allow any guests into the house during COVID-19. But houses are now reevaluating their guest policies and allowing them more into private spaces rather than public spaces, whereas previously guests had kind of been allowed to come into the house without any issue. So we have, like, this is one area where individual houses have had a degree of autonomy in forming their COVID-19 house policies. Everything has kind of been held. House meetings generally are still in person, but meetings between the members of various houses have still been held over Zoom. The board of directors meets over Zoom still. So we are still really conscious about trying to prevent community spread, despite the fact that many of our residents are now vaccinated.
Gotcha. Okay, wow, fascinating. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Noah. I'm really glad we got to see your presentation and learn more about what's happening in Madison. Seems like a place with a lot of cooperative activities. So I'm going to keep my eye on it. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Good. And it looks like we have about 15 minutes. So I want to open it up to just more general discussion and Q&A. Folks who are listening, if you have questions that could be relevant to one, but ideally more or all of our panelists, I'd love to hear them. And especially if you want to raise your hand and ask your question out loud, it'd be great to hear some new voices in the space. But feel free also to put any questions in the Q&A box or the chat. And I will kick things off with a question for the three of you. You know, recognizing that you're each kind of at different stages of development, with some having been around for decades, some just maybe under a decade, and some just getting started. How do you relate to the value of community and the intention behind why you are choosing to live this way, or endeavor to create community in this way, in this time, you personally? Why is community important? And whoever wants to go first, you can just unmute and share.
Well, in the silence, I'll start. I wish I had our vision statement up, but it's a common practice of co-housing communities to get together and start developing a collective vision and value narrative. And we've been part of doing that as well. I don't happen to have our vision statement up or memorized, but co-housing is about connection with each other and with the land. And the purpose of co-housing is to have a more meaningful relationship with your neighbors. And co-housing in general, and certainly our co-housing community, is very much attracted to the value of living sustainably. So we've been looking into gray water systems and photovoltaic cells and all sorts of things to live in better connection with the land. And our culture in particular is really excited about having beautiful gardens and a farm to table kind of culture. So integrating into the Greek culture and bringing those foods into our common house is going to be something that's important to us.
Thanks, that was beautiful. Bye. Yeah, I think for me, the three main reasons why community is important, and the values that we bring here at Dancing Catamount, is that as humans, we're actually happier, pardon me, happier and healthier when we have a community around us. And so back to that connection thing that Pai was just mentioning. Also, to reduce our climate impact, we don't all need to have a lawnmower, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, banding forces together it does have an impact individually, and hopefully this is something that can be multiplied across the globe as we build these models for how we live together and share resources. It becomes more and more accessible to more and more people. And also, I would say that, you know, my sense of where our climate and species is going, I believe that we're going to need community much, much more than we currently do. And that getting ahead of the wave is a service, and it's a responsibility in a way. At least I feel this, to try to ease the pain. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for myself and for Madison Community Cooperative, community is important, and it's very complex in our organization as well. Obviously, we are an organization of several hundred members, all living in different houses that each have their own culture. I think what we're kind of united by is our mission of providing low-income housing in the city of Madison. And that is something that does unite us, despite the fact that we all come from very different backgrounds. We've got queer individuals in our cooperative. We've got people from various ethnic backgrounds and racial backgrounds. And a part of our work is trying to understand each other, figure out like what healthy boundaries look like in cooperative spaces, and kind of form a community around understanding and empathy and learning. Some people come into this loving cooperatives, and some people come into this knowing very little about cooperatives and are simply looking for affordable housing. So community is kind of a way for us to try and bring people in and make sure everybody understands the capacity that they have within our cooperative movement here to make real change in their environment that maybe they aren't used to where they come from.
Great. Oh, beautiful. I loved all your answers. And I heard a comment thread around wanting to make a positive impact, whether that's on the environment or in social and justice realms. So that's great. And I think for me too, it's also like intentional communities is that intention piece, and that intention has a lot of meaning and depth. And so creating a positive impact through community. And I see we have two folks with their hands up. We have Len and Michael. So I'm going to go you first, Len. I think you've had your hand up for a while. You want to ask your question to our panelists?
That was an accident, but thank you all three for excellent presentations.
Oh, okay. No worries. And so, and Michael, yes, you still have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thank you, everybody. It's really interesting. Question for a couple of you. One of the quick ones was my wife Angela and I both lived in Madison, and Angela, my wife, was in a co-op, and she was wondering if Nottingham was one of your co-ops.
Yeah, I lived at Nottingham Co-op like 30 years ago, and it was such a fun time in my life.
Yeah, so Nottingham is actually an independent cooperative right now, but they are still in existence. They are still called Nottingham. To my knowledge, they are doing well.
Did you start that off, or they were independent?
They've been independent since I joined. I don't know exactly how long they have been, but a lot of the independent cooperatives have been a part of MCC at one time or another.
Yeah, I just am grateful because it was a way for me to have such a neat experience, and I couldn't afford much and at that time. So thank you for your part in that, if you had one.
Madison is so great. My question is mainly about international. Sort of, we're in California, and so this is maybe to you, Cynthia. And you say your name Perry?
Yeah.
Perry, yeah. We're really, that hurdle, and every country is different, obviously, for some in the US to go somewhere. But Perry, you were saying, and I think that it's actually fairly easy to go to Greece, keep your American citizenship, and get a kind of a permanent citizenship in Greece, or is that kind of a temporary thing? Yeah. No. Yeah.
No, it's not temporary. No, it's really it's really quite easy. Greece is not known for its smooth bureaucracy. In fact, bureaucracy in Greece can be really horrible. However, the golden visa process in Greece, as well as throughout Europe, is incredibly smooth. It's a 3 to 6 month kind of experience. As an immigration attorney, I can tell you that although the US doesn't recognize dual citizenship, in fact, there are millions and millions and millions of dual citizens who live in the United States, and you just use your American passport when you're going back to America, and you use your EU passport when you're going into EU. But if you buy a property in our community, then you become an EU permanent resident forever. It's renewable every 5 years, and if you decide that you want to become a citizen, then you can apply directly from your residency. I haven't read the statutes. I believe it's automatic, which is to say upon application. But certainly you and your family and your parents, even though we're adults, our parents can become permanent EU citizens, which is a big deal for healthcare.
Yeah. Is that, and Cynthia, is that true for Slovenia also? Is that like all of it? You know?
I think that each country has a similar program, but the method and how much property you need to purchase is different. I did look into this quite a bit myself, and there's a whole variety of like long-term visa programs you can be a part of for getting employment in Slovenia or being a student. I don't have any of those. I go over for 3 months. I go to a different country for a little while and then I come back. And
Wow.
yeah,
Michael, also the digital nomad visas and the financially independent visas, and Slovenia has their version as well. In Greece, if you can bring into the country on a monthly basis 2,000 euro, which is what, 2,400 or so US dollars. If you live on that and and the income comes from outside of the United States, then you're considered financially independent. And Slovenia has a similar kind of thing. Most countries in Europe have a financially independent kind of visa. And then there's the digital nomad visa. And these all come with tax incentives. If you're a digital slowmad or remote worker in our community, you're only taxed at 7% of your income. That's why we're getting so many people coming our way. If you're a retiree, you're only taxed at 50% of your income. Now, if you're an American, it doesn't matter as much because the Americans have a treaty and you end up paying the rest of it. You're not double taxed, but you're pay the rest of it to the United States. But if you're a European and you're a digital nomad or a retiree, they're all interested in coming to Greece and Portugal because they're taxed less.
Oh, how interesting.
Great. Well, good questions, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Alrighty. Looks like we are just about at time. We do have an interesting question in the Q&A box from Carmen about if you see community or intentional community as an alternative to traditional family structures. Maybe you each could speak to that, however you relate to that question.
Yeah, I can jump in. I do think they are an alternative, if only they provide close proximity to other adults that can bond with children and create strong relationships, which is harder to do when you're in a one family dwelling type of situation. So I think it raises the questions also, and it creates a container for people to have these conversations, which can be fertile ground for innovation and creation of different ways of relating. So I would say yes, I think they're very helpful in that regard.
Nice. A container for the question. I really like that. Noah or Perry?
Yeah, I think, obviously a traditional family structure is different in any kind of culture. They're not all exactly the same. I think they do provide an alternative to what we're used to in the United States for sure, especially if we're talking about a very static nuclear family setting. I think that cooperatives and intentional communities do provide an alternative. Like we, for example, have young residents of our co-ops who are emancipated from, their families who are living in our houses. And that's got to be a very, very different, experience growing up for them than what it would have been in a traditional, family setting. I think cooperatives have an opportunity to provide a lot of support to parents and children that you might not find if you are, going at it alone in a one family situation.
Yes, I agree with Noah and Cecile. I mean, intentional community is in some sense a substitute for extended family for a lot of us. I lived in Touchstone Co-Housing for 5 years. They actually have openings and homes as well this month. And it felt completely like extended family. People who do not have a lot of extended family, or people who are estranged from their family, are very much attracted to co-housing. Co-housing feels exactly like extended family. You eat together a couple of times a week. Your community is designed so that you see each other and talk to each other all the time. I had people knocking on my door and sitting on the porch to have coffee with me every day. On the way to the mailbox, you know, there was always someone who had the fig spread that I wanted from Whole Foods, or asked me about the phone call that they knew I was nervous about this day, or there was 2 children who always loved me to read the Harry McClary dog series to them on the porch. You know, it was just a wonderful opportunity for connection. So I think that's what all of our communities provide. And that's why IC is such a wonderful place, and these tours are great.
Sweet. Oh, that was so heartwarming. Ah, good. Well, I feel like we could do this for a long time, but we are at the half-an-hour mark. So thank you, Noah and Cecile and Perry, for your presentations. Really great to learn about your communities. I'm going to put a link to our evaluation form, and I would love if the people who are listening could give some feedback on what you liked and didn't like from this event. And I hope to see you on our next virtual tour. It's the 4th Thursday of every month, so mark it on your calendars. I hope to see you back here with 3 totally new communities that we get to explore. So thank you
so much, Cynthia.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, take care, folks. Bye-bye.